The chat room is already going full throttle with RIP Mike Leach and many different comments about Mike Leach, the former Texas Tech, Washington State, and Mississippi State coach. We, of course, had different comments, opinions, and stories on him yesterday, and today we try to honor him as much as we can. And at 3:25, Chris Lovell, who's the sideline reporter and also does Texas Tech men's basketball, is going to join us at 3:25 and his thoughts about Mike Leach and his life at the end of his life at 61 years old. I'll say this note real quickly, and then you guys, let's discuss him, and there's so many ways to do it, and that's great, Paul. The open was fantastic. That on the day that Mike Leach passes away, yet another branch in his coaching tree at the head coaching level is sprouted. Eric Morris today named the new football coach at the University of North Texas, former Texas Tech receiver. He now is one of the newest names. We're going to show you his coaching tree here. Jacob put together a really cool graphic in just one moment.
Yeah, Eric Morris's star is on the rise, but one of the more recent guys off the coaching tree takes the place of another guy, Seth Luttrell, who's on his coaching tree.
Yep.
So, and in a pretty smart move by North Texas not to shift philosophies all that much, especially based on what you've got on the roster there right now. But today, and I thought, what's the best way to kind of, honor Mike Leach with an open and all that. You'll hear a couple of things in the top five today. I think the thing about him he was just so funny that, I think he would, I didn't know him, at all other than a couple of interviews and media day type things, the availabilities throughout the years and stuff like that. But I do know that he liked to make people laugh, and I thought we'd start off with a good chuckle on it.
I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, seeing a lot of those clips put together of him, videos over the years of different comments and interviews and, funny things that he said, can make a lot out of a lot of what he said, and make a lot of fun out of it because he was a fun guy, first and foremost, and also a great football coach and a great football mind, and truly one of a kind. I think I said one of one yesterday on the show. I've since seen that repeated because I think everybody's got kind of the same thought in mind of just how unique he was and how just Mike Leach he was. And there's not really, too many comparisons you can make. I'd definitely go like the Lane Kiffin route, and in some ways just as far as the fun with the media and kind of, being a little bit goofy in a good way. But, I mean, there's nobody quite like Mike Leach. And you see the outpouring of support from, various college football luminaries and former players and just all, points in between, fans from various different fan bases all over the country. And, it's been a huge outpouring. Everybody kind of had an early indication that this probably was going to end up this way. When the news started trickling out on Sunday, I think all signs pointed to this probably not working out the best for him in the end. And I think we all held out hope that it would, even though the news kept coming out and it was still sounding dire and, continuously asking for prayers, but also acknowledging that it was going to take, every prayer imaginable and then some to try and, help him out of this situation. So I think we all kind of knew we were going to end up here in the next couple of days, unfortunately. And here we are, unfortunately. And, we lost a legend, man, in the game of football and in college football in particular. And, just prayers out to his loved ones, how sudden and shocking that had to be for him to, how sudden and shocking it had to be for his family. So rest in peace to Mike Leach.
61 years old, and when the news came down late Sunday, you saw or heard some of the rumblings, and he's gone. Late last night, here's the official statement, at least the conversation from Mississippi State football. Mike Leach, 1961 to 2022. Coached at Washington State, turned them around. Went to Texas Tech, of course, and turned them into a national threat when they had the 2008 team that had that incredible trifecta with Texas, Oklahoma, and also Texas Tech. As a Nebraska fan, Nebraska used to own Texas Tech. There were some games that were a little bit dicey. I think he won 4 or 5 in a row against them, and one of them was 70-10. And so he turned Texas Tech, of course, into what was truly amazing.
I think that many Texas Tech fans were not over their dismissal of Mike Leach and him subsequently going to Wazoo after that, until the day Joey McGuire got hired. And
based on some of today's reaction, they're still not.
Yeah,
over.
probably, and they maybe never will be, because he was perfect out there, and maybe he wasn't going to stay forever, but it was the best that fit the personality. Because look, the two best coaches in Texas Tech history are Mike Leach and Spike Dykes, and what you can say about both of them is that they were both unique. They both didn't feel limited by West Texas. They found ways around it. And part of that was just being fun and funny and different and quirky and all of that. So, yeah, I mean, I think there are people who may never get over what happened with Mike Leach in Lubbock.
Craig, you were at Tech for a little bit. Did you ever, just the thought when you were there with him on campus, did you ever see him on campus? I know they were playing games or whatever. You were didn't live that far away from the stadium. Did you ever even see him on campus or bump into anywhere where he was?
No, I didn't have any interactions with him at all. I mean, I know people who did, and I was out there, at the same time that they beat Texas with a famous Crabtree catch, and I remember just the jubilation on campus for that. But never any personal interactions. Obviously knew people who played for him, and one of my good buddies, committed and signed with him, but could never really play because of injuries once he got out to Lubbock. But, I only heard really good things, quite frankly, and you've seen a lot of that echoed today. And, I just think that he was, a guy that really embraced people and really embraced the quirks that people have, and embraced just kind of the funny side of things, like who goes on rants about candy corn. I mean, now a lot of people do, because now it's almost played out to knock on candy corn. But, just little things, little diatribes, little, it's video after video of people who are like, I didn't, know him that well, but this one time I interviewed him, and everybody's got their 15-second clip of the, their little interaction. And I see John Elizondo from, San Antonio or something. Yeah. A card trick that Mike Leach showed him in an interview. And there's this person talking about the candy corn. He's just, we're seeing it all over the place, and it's cool to see kind of the remembrances and all the memories that have come flooding back for people, and just their way that they've been touched by him. And it's an immense amount of people. So, he did well while he had his time on this earth, and it's just too bad that it was cut short, much shorter than anybody expected. And I'm sure his wife probably more than anybody, and his loved ones. And so they're reeling today. I mean, if complete strangers are having a hard time with this, you can only imagine those who really knew him, how they're feeling, especially as abrupt as this felt, to those of us on the outside looking in. So, I can't imagine the pain they're going through, and just wish them well. And I'm glad that, there's a lot of people by the thousands that are all coming together online or in person or however it may be, and collectively sharing their great memories of this guy.
So let's look at his coaching tree, shall we? Chris Level will join us today at 3:25, and there is stories. Purdue has a new coach in Ryan Walters, and stories in the transfer portal. Somebody at Utah's, was it Clark Phillips III, a hell of a defensive back at Utah, turning pro. But we'll get to that in a minute. Here is his coaching tree, and Jacob, I know has a bunch of stuff to put in front of you, and we didn't add all the various parts to the right of each coach. Obviously, Dave Aranda, he was a GA at Texas Tech. Neil Brown played wide receiver under Mike Leach at Texas Tech. Sonny Cumbie played quarterback under Mike Leach at Texas Tech, and he was a GA at Tech. Sonny Dykes, wide receivers coach, co-offensive coordinator at Texas Tech. Josh Heupel played quarterback at Oklahoma when Leach was their offensive coordinator. Dana Holgerson coached with Leach at Valdosta State and was the wide receivers offensive coordinator at Tech. Cliff Kingsbury, he's on the hot seat with the Cardinals, but we know he played quarterback under Leach at Texas Tech. There's an asterisk next to Seth Luttrell because he was recently fired by North Texas. The former head coach at North Texas played quarterback under Leach at Oklahoma, and he was a running backs coach at Texas Tech. Then there's Eric Morris, who today was named the head coach at North Texas, who played wide receiver at Tech, wide receivers coach under Leach at Washington State. Lincoln Riley played quarterback under Leach at Tech, assistant coach at Tech, and then Ken Wilson, the head coach at Nevada and the linebackers coach at Washington State. To the right, Robert Anae, Syracuse offensive coordinator, was an offensive line coach with Leach at Tech. Bill Bedenbaugh, one of the legendary offensive line coaches, at Oklahoma.
And now he's actually just taken the job with NC State.
Okay,
He's
then
not
there's
with
another
Syracuse.
head coach.
No.
Offensive coordinator?
Yeah.
Okay. Bedenbaugh played offensive line at Iowa Wesleyan when Leach was there, and also an assistant on the coaching staff at Valdosta State. He also coached with Leach at Tech. Alex Grinch, remember him? Defensive coordinator. He's at USC, at Washington State. Brandon Jones, Houston's run game coordinator. Played offensive line under Leach at Tech, offensive assistant at Tech. And we mentioned Eric Morris, who was on that list. We moved him to the other side. And how about this one? Wes Welker. He's the Dolphins wide receiver coach, played wide receiver, of course. And that offense was perfect for guys like that, Danny Amendola, names like that. He, of course, played wide receiver under Leach when he was the head coach at Texas Tech.
Yeah, and then those guys are going to have. There's guys under those guys who are coaching.
Yes.
So it's just the roots of that tree run deep. The branches run deep. Or long. It's amazing. Again, he's. I did see something this morning from someone that, as a head football coach, to be qualified for induction into the College Football Hall of Fame, you have to have won 60% of your games. He's at 59.6. So really, they kind of need to round that up, because contributor to the game or whatever, this guy has changed college football. The best I saw it, and I should have said, I saved it and then I deleted it, but I saw a tweet thread from someone earlier, and if I find it again, said that it wasn't that he revolutionized offense, he democratized it. In that it was, instead of the passing offense, like when he and Hal Mummy started doing this, people were reticent to throw the ball a lot because they felt you had to have a certain type of quarterback. You had to have this guy that could do these things and had to have this kind of arm. And they flipped that philosophy on its ear. They developed a lot out of Lavelle Edwards and what they were doing at BYU, and then just grew the air raid out of that and really came up with different schemes or simplifying things to where you could pass the ball a whole lot more. I mean, Darryl Royal had the famous saying about throwing the ball, 3 things can happen and 2 of them are bad. And that was the philosophy across football for a long time. Mike Leach, Hal Mummy, those guys didn't believe that.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. I'd add Graham Harrell, West Virginia offensive coordinator, on there as well. And there's many others that you could add to that list. It's a pretty incredible coaching tree, and we only just took a glimpse of it. But, yeah, it's sure to span out a lot more than it already has. And we look no further than the head coach across the street in Dave Aranda, and looking forward. Dave Aranda never tweets, like never, ever tweets, never. And he's tweeted twice in the last 2 days to remark on, one, best wishes for Mike Leach, I guess, yesterday, and then today to say, he's sorry to hear of his passing, and, the best wishes to Leach's wife. But, yeah, I mean, the after effects of Mike Leach, I mean, I think of him as a Big 12 guy because that's just what I grew up watching, and that's where I grew up watching him, was in the Big 12, and I was out there for a little while he was head coach at Texas Tech. And then, to see him go and do his thing in the Pac-12, and, then to go see him now do his thing in the SEC over the last, little bit has been, cool to see him spread his wings. But certainly his offensive ideas and his, influence has spread all over the country, as you point out, with all of those coaches listed, and then the ones that we're not even thinking of, or the ones that aren't on there. It's immeasurable, his impact on the game, and not just at the college level. I think the high school level's been absolutely affected by Mike Leach, especially in the state of Texas, and the NFL to an extent as well. So yeah, great football mind. Obviously, very beloved by those who knew him. Now, I see like Bob Stoops, I think it was like the first tweet I saw today, because Leach was on the Oklahoma staff. It was brief, but he was on the Oklahoma staff, and right as Stoops' tenure was kicking off and they won the national title there in year number 2, as Leach went off started being a head coach. But, yeah, I mean, you look pretty much any corner of college football, and there's some Mike Leach influence or story or connection. And, again, what an impact he left.